Good morning, chaps. Okay, this is just a quick rundown of what happened on my shift, number 4 shift, yesterday actually. I had a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and I actually finished on time, which was brilliant. I was working at a pool yesterday, so bit of a travel up to pool. Port Bomber Station's very nice, very well laid out. People there lovely. So we went out on the front line again. Myself and a paramedic who was very experienced, for about 12, 13, 14 years, which is very good. Had a really good time with her. And you know, when you go with new people, it's always good to see how they want to work, what sort of things they like to be done for them. Some paramedics don't want you to do anything, just drive and pick up the bags. But most of them are happy for you to try and help them out, like getting the cannulas sorted out and flushes and things like that. So yesterday my first call was to a chap who had basically a back problem in the past anyway, and yesterday morning it was exacerbated, and he had a slight collapse. His leg basically gave way. He was in quite a dangerous area of the location where he was working, just for the nature of his business that he was working at. So when we arrived, we have to assess that we ourselves are safe. So as the general idea is the same thing, same principle as the first aid. You have your scene safety and situation, and we have to make sure that first of all, can we put the ambulance somewhere safe, but it's not going to get in danger of blowing up or broken tyres or whatever it's going to be. And then if we have to retrieve the patient from the location, is it accessible? Sorry, excuse me again. So as I was coming up the ambulance, I was looking at pathways for retreat, if it's possible for a chair, if it's possible for a stretcher, and that's something which an ECA needs to think about as soon as they possibly can, is to make sure that you're forward thinking. Okay, should the patient need to be extubated very quickly, what's the best path? Is there things that we can move out of the way quickly in order to get the patient out of there? As it turned out, we walked some distance into this area, and the patient was sat in the chair, and he was in a lot of pain, and it turned out it sounded like it's very painful sciatica that was causing a problem, but we couldn't 100% put it down to that. So in the end, what we did, we transferred him to a chair, and we were able to carry chair him out of there. We'll take 2 people to do a carry chair just over the bumps. We have one person to push, which is on 2 wheels, and the other person to lift up just gently over steps and things like that. So we took him to the hospital, and he was happily on the Entonox, and then eventually we had to put him on morphine. So this is the first time that I was able to draw up any drugs. In training, especially with the training I had finished today, the last 9 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, they will show you how to draw up drugs and flushes, but you won't actually be able to do that until you're on the job. They won't even give you old drugs or even vials of pretend water to do it. I don't know why. I think it's down to health and safety, or there's something reason behind it. So you can view how it's done at training, but until you're actually on site and actually working as an ECA, you won't actually get to do it properly. So what I would suggest is you ask the paramedic to show you once, twice, 3 times, however long it takes you to remember, and then try yourself on a non-urgent patient. Basically, because time-critical patients need it done straight away, and the paramedic needs to know that you can drop the drugs very quickly, have a check, and then give it to the paramedic. In my time yesterday I should say, I was able to be talked through getting a 10ml syringe, putting a flush in, and then using a drawing up needle, taking 1 ml of morphine to 9 ml of sodium chloride, and then handing it to the paramedic. So I was really happy I was actually able to have that experience. When you finish your training, you have something that's what's called an ECA passport, as I think I might mention it in the last video. And this allows you to tick boxes of what you have done, what you are confident of doing. And if you tick a box to say, I'm confident in doing something, then a paramedic who's seen you do it to say, yes, you are competent to do it. Okay, so you might tick all the boxes and say, yes, I can do everything. But until you are seen to do it competently, they won't tick the boxes. And that's 6 months you have to do that. So I can, I want to do another flush, I want to do another morphine draw up of drugs or something like that, just so I know that in myself I'm confident of I'm actually doing that. And then of course we had to restock everything as well. So that was really, really interesting on a student sense of job. We then went to an elderly lady. She was in her 90s as well, and she basically, we were told on the data pad on the computer system that she had been on the floor for 2 days, which instantly thinks, oh gosh, she's going to have toxicity in her body. She probably has had movements in that time period. She may not be very well, etc. What turned out was she was only on the ground for about an hour or 2, and she had breakfast, and then we don't know how, but we think we should just load herself to the ground. It was quite it was just a normal get up, make sure she's alright, give her observations, heart pressure, blood pressure, blood test to make sure that she wasn't any problems with her sugar, that sort of thing, ECGs, things like that. All this while she was talking to me about her 5 husbands. So it's lovely to have conversations with the patients as well. Conversation is what makes the job as well. If a patient isn't happy to talk to you, if a patient, if you're not I can't say the word. If your communication skills aren't very good, this job will allow you to get better at it. Because I think one of the most important aspects of an ECA job is the ability to be able to talk to anybody and show that we are there to help at the end of the day. And what the patient transport service did for me when I was in here originally 6-7 years ago was that communication was really important, and it's even more so when you're actually at someone's worst day of their lives and you're trying to help them. I'll get them help as soon as you possibly can do. Because most times they're fearful, they don't know what's going on, and they need someone to gently show them and explain to them the situation in a humanly as possible, gently as possible. Okay, so that's that. Another one we had, we had a call to a. It was said as a catastrophic hemorrhage, which is one of our biggest 999 calls that we have to blue light out of there. When you do your first aid in the SWAST, that's number 2 on the list. Scene safety situation, and then is there a catastrophic hemorrhage in there? we were expecting blood everywhere, somebody on the ground. As it turned out, this lady had walked down a path. There was a family of people on the path, and she was then, I don't know if she was moved out the way by them, barged out the way, or she moved herself, but somehow she fell into a thorn bush, poor thing. Now, because as you get older, your skin gets thinner, and it's easier to tear. And this lady, I think she's in her 70s, she had some very, very bad lacerations and tears on her lower limbs. When we got there, there was a responder and a paramedic who had already bandaged up the area, but even then it was still bleeding through. And they actually took a picture on the tough bandage we have, and it looked quite nasty. So this lady was very calm, and the husband was there as well, trying to get everything sorted out. And we were trying to sort out her socks and everything else. Got her into the ambulance, and she was talking about her husband not being able to do much without her. And I said, well, yeah, it's about time that, maybe he can do something for you now, because you're obviously not very well, and all these years, you having to look after him. And it was lovely to have that conversation. Trying to keep her mind off the pain, trying to keep her mind off the blood, because it was quite a lot. It was pulling at the bottom of her foot, so we had to put a second bandage on. It's still pulling, so when we got to hospital in the end, we kind of sort of explained to her the potential that when the bandage comes off, she's going to be in some discomfort. They'll probably give her some morphine or something to feel the pain, and then they'll need to flush it out, to clean it out, to get rid of any bits of sock that are still stuck in her lower leg, and then have a look at the actual wound. So never lie to your patients. Never lie to anyone to say, oh yeah, you're fine, no, it's not going to hurt, it's only a scratch, because she didn't actually see it. Always be positive, but always say what really has happened. Like, you've done some damage there, it's going to be quite uncomfortable. But yeah, she knew what was going on, so that's fine. We on the last one we did, I can't remember the other ones in between, but the last one, we got a call. It was basically a Cat 4, which means it's just a transportation. Now, in the ambulance service currently, we have a Cat 1, a Category 1, 2 and 3, which are all blue lights and all sirens. Category 1 is life-threatening, actually almost dead sort of thing, cardiac arrest, that sort of thing. Category 4 is transportation from one location to another location, non-urgent, but if there's no other transport available, then we will do that as well. Now, the thing with this particular patient is that she basically had a collapse. It just dizziness, and she just fell, which wasn't unusual for her at the time, because she was having dizzy spells. But the story that she gave us was very sad. We had to transport her to a haematology department for a blood transfusion. And in the time of leaving her home to going to the hospital, she was talking to me about all of her family. They said they had a big family and very supportive, but no one around. Okay, and she said that when she goes, no one's going to look after her husband. They just had a diamond wedding anniversary, I think last week or a couple of days ago. So you imagine how many years together these two have been. And she told me that she's only got 2 to 3 weeks to live because she's got leukemia. And that was really, really sad. Basically, I don't think that the husband was taking it on board too much, or he wasn't making the preparations, because I think when you've been so long with people at that time of life, it's hard to think what it's like without them. And she was a lovely, lovely lady, not that. So it made, it's a very sad story. So as I was sorting out this lady for observations before we transported her, and sorting out anything else that she had problems with at that time, my colleague, the paramedic, took the husband up to the side to another room and basically said, look, you know what's going to happen soon. What the best thing to do is find some help, because you're going to need it. He's going to be on his own. And the advice that she gave him is something which I'm hoping to carry with me as well. When you know that there's an impending loss of a loved one soon, make sure that you find all the help that they possibly can need, and then write it down on a piece of paper. This is for the patient needs to do. The patient's other half needs to do this. Like telephone numbers, helplines, helpful care. If they need some care in the house because they've not been able to do stuff because the other half was doing it and now they're gone, they've got no help. Things like that. Care lines to be able to talk to somebody, because inevitably there's going to be depression and anxiety and stress and sadness and all that sort of things. And if you have a piece of paper with all this list of telephone numbers, which the person's already done their homework and written it down, pop it in a drawer, okay, and leave it in a drawer, and then that homework's been done there. So when the time comes, when the loved one then has died, the partner can then open the drawer and think, actually, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. And instead of having to look around and trying to think, how do I get a hold of this number? Who do I need to contact for this? They've got the piece of paper with all the numbers already written down on there already. Okay, so it just helps for the future that this paper can potentially save that person's life, because the help is there. And I think that was really, really good of the paramedic to do that. I'm hoping that other paramedics do the same, and I certainly want to take that on board for work, and I would do so here in my own home as well. Because when something that terrible happens, your brain doesn't compute with everything that's going on. The last thing you'll be thinking of is, who do I need to contact? Where's that information? Or you won't even be thinking of that, perhaps. You'll be sat down and not doing anything. So being prepared, I think, is the most important thing. Okay, so, and again, communication between the ambulance service and the patient, and the communication between the ambulance service and the patient's relative is really important. Because we can find out so much just by talking. They might say, I've got this problem, but actually, as they're talking, they might mention something else on the side, and then that could be really important to add to the history or something. So, so it was a bit of a sad ending, so I know that potentially I will never see that lady again, which is really sad. And also, obviously she's going to be her husband of whatever, how many years it is going to be on his own. But it's also something to learn from, and so I'm hoping that a little bit of this might be able to help somebody else out there. Whether you're in the ambulance service or not, or you're thinking about it, or if you're just somebody who is, what do I do if something happens? I hope this helps you. Okay, so I've got 2 days off. I've got today and tomorrow off, thank goodness, because I'm tired. And then Friday and Saturday I've got 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shifts in 2 separate stations. I will try my best to give you a last video of those 2 together. So apologies if they come out a little bit later because of lack of sleep. But again, any questions you have, please, drop us a comment down the bottom. And good luck with everybody else who is again doing this course. And let me know how you get on. So, as I said beforehand, take care, drive safely, and talk to you soon. Bye for now.